It is Tennessee week. It is Friday, which means we are talking about what to be excited about, what to be nervous about, and what not to sleep on as the Dogs head to Knoxville on Saturday. All of that and more today on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I am Daniel. This is the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. Today's episode brought to you by Prize Picks, prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. More on them in a second. And yes, we will be talking about what to be excited about, what to be nervous about, and what not to sleep on. I will also, just for free, offer you the advice: do not sleep in Knoxville, Tennessee. Just don't. If you're going to go for the game, get in, get out. Don't spend the night. It's a terrible place. It's filled with hill people. East Tennessee in general is to be avoided at all costs. Georgia heads to Knoxville, to Neyland Stadium on Saturday. They take on the Vols. We've been talking about it all week. I feel like everything that could ever have been said about this game has already been said. And yet here we are on Friday. You're here because you need more. And I'm here because I have more. And so thanks for being here. Thanks for making the Locked On Bulldogs podcast your first listen every day. If you have just found us on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube. That's great. Also, an audio podcast platform of your choosing. If you go and subscribe, maybe leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps us out a tremendous amount. Thank you so much for all of you who have done that. If you only listen to us on audio, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Recently, over 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. Let's just get it to 10K before Georgia wins the national championship in January, and that would be absolutely fantastic. With the rate that we've been on the last month, we could actually get there before January. So thank you to all of you who make this show awesome and make it a ton of fun. Thank you to the 199. We'll talk to you in the third segment. But let's jump into what I'm most excited about this game. And listen, I don't like to get too philosophical on this podcast. We try to keep it light. We try to have a good time. We are accused often of being Georgia homers. We're too arrogant. We're too down on the team. We're too excited about the team. We should just feel nothing ever. And then we should just read you stats and then turn the mics off. If that's what you're looking for in a podcast, this probably isn't the show for you, but you've probably already figured that out by now. But today I do want to get a little philosophical because this is Georgia plays Georgia Tech next week, and that's going to be a fun time in its own right. But this ends a 3-week stretch of Georgia playing Missouri, Ole Miss, and Tennessee now on the road. 3 ranked teams. 3, we can make fun. We can have our fun. We can say 3 good football teams. Tennessee's a good football team. They're not a great football team, but they are a good football team. This game on the road, a really brutal stretch of football, but a really fun stretch of football. A stretch of football where we've gotten to really see what this Georgia team is all about, where we've gotten to see them tested. Early in the season, South Carolina, that was a bit of a disappointing effort in the first half. Early in the season, UAB, the defense probably allowed too many points to UAB, if we're being totally honest. Vanderbilt moved the ball and scored points against us. That was a bit frustrating. But now we've started to see this Georgia team seemingly come alive at the most crucial part of the season, come alive against the most difficult part of the schedule. And it's got Georgia fans feeling really good. And so I just want to remind everybody of where we are. Georgia is the back-to-back reigning national champions. Georgia has won 27 consecutive football games in a row. That's a longer streak than Nick Saban has ever had anywhere he's ever been. Actually, I have to go back and check with the Miami Dolphins if he won 27 games. Oh, no, he was a total failure in the NFL. It's a longer streak than Nick Saban's had at Alabama. It's the second longest streak in SEC history behind Bear Bryant's Alabama teams. We're in the middle, mind you, not the end, not the beginning. We're right in the middle of one of the greatest college football dynasties that the world has ever seen. And Georgia's got yet another big-time marquee matchup, middle of the day, 3:30, CBS. It's another opportunity for us to get to really see what this team is all about. And I think go out and do something that they haven't yet done. Georgia's biggest road win of the year so far is against Auburn. Now, I actually think Auburn is as good of a football team as Tennessee. And I think Jordan Hare is close to as good of an environment as Neyland Stadium is. And so I think Georgia has been tested a bit in this way, but it gives us an opportunity here now late in the season to see Georgia go up against a good team on the road and check off yet another box in our quest to solidify ourselves as the premier team in college football. I'm excited just to see this team continue to come together. The team is getting healthy. I'm excited to see Amarius Mims back. Another full week of practice. Another full week of the cohesion of this offensive line. I think the change at guard when Amarius Mims got hurt. Xavier Truss played great at tackle, but really the addition of Dylan Fairchild into the interior of this line, Micah Morris rotating in. I'm excited to see that group continue to gel. I'm excited to see Brock Bowers, who is the most transcendent talent that the Georgia football program has ever had. I'm excited to see him go take the field another time and play another meaningful SEC game. There's so much to be excited about, but I think my main source of excitement going into this game is to recognize that we are in the midst of a truly remarkable college football dynasty. And so don't take it for granted, Georgia fans, and enjoy this game, whether you're going to be in Knoxville or you're going to be at your house. We've got more to talk about, including why you should be nervous going into Saturday, coming up right after these. But first, want to talk to you about Prize Picks. I mentioned them at the top. Prize Picks is the place where you go to take your knowledge of what's going to happen in a football game and use that knowledge to make you money. It's an unbelievable trade-off. You possess this skill set, this knowledge already. You spend countless hours watching games, countless hours looking at stats, researching players. You know who's good and who's not. You know who's primed to perform and who's not. Right now, you go to Prize Picks. They give you a player. You're not playing against fantasy pros. You're not playing against the Vegas casinos. You are playing simply against a number. They give you a number and a player, and you simply choose whether that player is going to have more or less in that category. For example, Kendall Milton, 65 rushing yards. You would take more on that. Tennessee, total points, 17.5. You would take less on that. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match of up to $100. prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for free money, a first-time deposit match of up to $100. Take that money, make your picks, and then make money. Cash out. prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. All right, what should you be nervous about? Now, last segment and most of the week is when I get accused of being a Georgia homer. I'm way too arrogant. I'm way too I'm too cocky. I feel too excited about this team. I need to calm down. And this is the segment where I get accused of being a naysayer and a doubter and how dare I and blah, 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 whatever. Let's just be totally clear. If you're a Georgia fan, you should be nervous going into this game. Number one, you should be nervous that we're going to Neyland Stadium to play in a difficult atmosphere. I know. I remember 41-0. I do. I remember that. But we're going into a difficult atmosphere to play in a difficult stadium against a fan base that is going to be absolutely rabid, and good for them. The season has been disappointing for Tennessee. They're 5-3. They have not met their own I'm sorry, they're what are they? Yeah. They're 5-3 or they're 6-3. Maybe they're 6-3. I can't keep up. They haven't met their own expectations. No, they're 7-3. They played 10 games. They're 7-3. Still, a disappointing season for Tennessee to this point. They haven't lived up to what they thought they were going to be. And yet, the fan base is going to be there. This is going to be their Super Bowl. Georgia fans should be nervous. Now, I don't know that you should be nervous about the environment because I mentioned before, early in the season against Auburn, that's just as difficult of a place to play. And those Auburn fans were not down. They were up. And Georgia was tested and had their backs against the wall in that game and found a way to win in a very hostile environment on the road in a game where they were never able to take the crowd out of it. And that says a lot about this team early in the season. It's not the environment that should make you nervous. It's the Tennessee football team. And I'll say two things. And Clint's not here to roll his eyes or to whatever. And so I've got all the freedom in the world to tell you the truth. You should be nervous about Tennessee's defensive front. Yes, the offensive line for Georgia is playing their best football of the year. Yes, Carson Beck was not touched. Literally was not touched in the football game against Ole Miss. That's insane. It's unthinkable. But Tennessee's defensive front is very good. Tennessee's talent on the edge is very good. Tennessee's ability to win one-on-ones, edge rusher versus tackle, are very good. Ernest Green and Marius Mims are going to be tested in this game. Now, I think they're very good players. They're going to be tested in this game. And the pass rush, stopping the pass rush is going to be critical for this Georgia team. You should be nervous about the Tennessee defensive front. If Carson Beck has time to throw, he's going to carve up the Tennessee defense. The secondary is not that great. The secondary has struggled this year. But if Carson Beck does not have time to throw, all of a sudden, Georgia becomes dependent on the run game, which is not a recipe for Georgia. They want to, this year, Georgia has thrown the ball and set up the run with that. That is the preferred style of this team, of Mike Bobo, of this coaching staff. It fits the personality of who this team is. That's what they want to be able to do. If Georgia is dependent on the run game, I think you could see some struggles for Kendall Milton and Daijun Edwards. Whereas if Carson Beck has some time and is able to open things up in the passing game, I think Daijun Edwards and Kendall Milton are going to thrive in this game. So nervous about the Tennessee defensive front, particularly Georgia's ability to protect the passer. Also nervous about Tennessee's run game. I've been saying it all week. I'm going to continue to say it. This is the best run game that Georgia will have faced all season long. They run it with the quarterback. They run it with the backs. They spread you out. They get the box really light. And Georgia's not going to be immune from that. Georgia is going to have to play that way because as much as Kirby Smart wants to take away the run, and he does, that's his coaching philosophy. That's what he lives by. You win the trenches. You take away the run game. You make them one-dimensional. You cannot against Tennessee. Even though the Tennessee wide receivers, Jalen Hyatt's not walking through that door. The Tennessee wide receivers are not who they were last year. Even though that's the case, you cannot bring all the safeties down and leave those corners one-on-one on islands on the outside. You cannot. You have to have a safety over the top of number 6 at all times in this game. Because if you don't, you will get torched for big plays. So Tennessee's going to have light boxes, and they rush the ball better than any team in the SEC, potentially with the exception of Alabama, but they rush the ball as well as any team that Georgia has played this season, 5.5 yards per carry. On average, they hit explosive runs. They hit big runs. They run with tempo. They get to the line fast. They catch you out of alignment. They run the quarterback, which Georgia has struggled to defend at times this year. And they have physical backs, and they run well in space. And Josh Heupel is very good at creating plays in the run game. Georgia has got to be able to tackle well on the second level. The linebacker play. CJ has got to have another great game, this time on the road. When Wilson comes in, he's got to play well. We've got to see a big game from Smile Mondin. We need these linebackers to play exceptionally well and tackle well in space, because one missed tackle against Tennessee is another 15 yards on the ground, typically, because of the way that they spread you out. It's not like missing a tackle against Missouri and he gains another 4, 5, 6 yards, which, by the way, we saw over and over and over again against Missouri. Schrader absolutely shedded tackles from these linebackers. If you miss a tackle against Tennessee, it's going to be more costly than that. So that's the other thing I think you should be nervous about. Georgia's ability to stop the run and Georgia's ability to protect the passer. Those will be the keys to the game. And if you're a Georgia fan, you should be nervous about those things. Now, what should you not sleep on? What are the things that maybe you haven't thought of yet? What are the things that might surprise you that I expect to happen on Saturday? More on that for the 199 right after these. But first, let's talk about Athletic Brewing Company. Listen, it's tailgate season. You want to be out there at the game. You want to be pre-gaming. You want to be hanging out with your friends, and you want to be enjoying a delicious beverage. But you also want to stay hydrated. You also want to have all of your mental faculties in order. That's where Athletic Brewing comes in. They make non-alcoholic brews that are award-winning. They've been put head-to-head against alcoholic beer, and they have won in competitions judging taste. It's all of your favorite flavors, all of your favorite styles of brews put out by Athletic Brewing. You can get IPAs, you can get lagers, you can get a stout. And right now, if you go to athleticbrewing.com, 100% non-alcoholic beers. Use the code LOCKEDON for 15% off your first order. Go to athleticbrewing.com. Use the code LOCKEDON for 15% off your first order. Place an order. Get them sent to you. You'll be ready for the rest of tailgate season, SEC championship. Maybe you're going down to Atlanta to the Flats next week for that home game for Georgia. You will be ready for all of it. Athletic Brewing Company. Clint and I love them, and you will too. Athleticbrewing.com. Use the code LOCKEDON for 15% off your first order. Don't sleep on. We're here. We've made it to the end of Friday's show. As a reminder, thank you to the 199 who have been with us this entire season. We love you guys. You guys are the best. Follow us on Twitter at Dawgs Podcast. Send us an email, lockedonbulldogs@gmail.com. We'd love to interact with you that way. As we get closer to the SEC championship, we've got an announcement coming for the 199. We've got something special that we're going to do, and so stay tuned for that. If you want to get the merch, you can find that at bonfire.com/store/the199. That's bonfire.com/store/the199. But let's talk about, also hit up the Subtext. If you want to hang out with your boys on Saturday during the game, we love watching games with you. We love interacting with you on the Subtext. And so hit us up over there. There's a link in the description if you want to try it out. Let's talk about what not to sleep on Saturday, and I'm going to start with this one. I have been on the beating the drum that Georgia is going to struggle out of the gate in this contest, and I'm not going to recant on that. I still feel very strongly about that. So I'm going to give you a 2-for-1. Don't sleep on. Part A, don't sleep on Georgia giving up touchdowns, multiple touchdowns in the first quarter of this game. Now, depending on who gets the kickoff first, we might spill into the second quarter there. But similar to Ole Miss scored touchdowns on 2 of its first 3 drives. Missouri scored touchdowns early in that football game. Don't sleep on the same thing happening against Tennessee. I think Josh Heupel is going to have a good plan. I think the atmosphere is going to matter and rattle this Georgia team a bit early. I think you're going to get guys, young linebackers, in a loud and hostile environment, caught out of position, not in the right place to make a play. I think you'll see missed tackles. I think you'll see explosive plays, and I think you will see Tennessee score early on Georgia. And so Georgia will be down in this game. And I don't mean Tennessee receives the opening kickoff and scores a touchdown and, so they're down until they get the ball. I mean, after multiple possessions have happened, don't sleep on Georgia being down in this game. I think Tennessee is going to score 17 first half points. Now, that might seem like an insane number to you. It might seem a little high based on what the Georgia defense has looked better in recent weeks, particularly against Ole Miss. But as I mentioned, Ole Miss scored 14 points in the first quarter of that football game. 2 of their first 3 drives resulted in touchdowns. And then don't sleep on, you remember back to the beginning of the show, if you were listening, which you probably weren't, which is fine. If you remember back to the beginning of the show, I said if the line was 17.5 points for Tennessee's team total, I would take the under. And I just told you I think they're going to score 17 points in the first half, which means don't sleep on a second half shutout for Kirby Smart. Clint talked to Eric Kane from Locked On Vols, who, by the way, is a pro. He's fantastic. If you want to hear somebody tell it to you like it is when it comes to the Vols, go and subscribe to his show. Give him a listen. He's a great guy, even if he is a Tennessee fan. He told us that second half Tennessee has been the worst version of Tennessee all year. And just go back, look at the Alabama game, look at the Missouri game, look at the way Tennessee, when Josh Heupel, he comes out and he fires his bullets, but then the chamber is empty and he ain't got nothing left to reload with. And he is now all of a sudden fighting with a pointy stick. And potentially struggle a little bit. Come out and, maybe have some things not go our way, maybe have some situations that aren't great. But then things get rolling, and by the on fire, they cannot be stopped. They are absolutely a juggernaut in the second half. When both those worlds how you plan on enjoying this game. Clint and I will be back on Saturday night after the show with an overreaction, after the game with an overreaction show, as we always are. So tune in then, and we will see you guys there.